What is going on? It is the Bleeding Burgundy podcast. It is Tuesday, July 13th, and we are at episode number 28. I am here with my co-pilots, Keith Gray and John Taymen. How you doing, boys?
Fantastic.
Awesome. We have two special guests today. We have many people may know him as Disco, Richard Rogers. How you doing, Richard?
I'm doing good, guys. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on. And our very, very special special guest, excuse me, Case. I'm just got out of work. You got to have to excuse me a little bit. Zach Selby from the Washington football team. How you doing, Zach?
I am living the dream, just living it up, trying to stay cool because it is hot outside.
It is.
Have y'all been out? Oh my goodness.
It was outside all day long. I
just wanted to get some breakfast and I about died. Honestly, I felt like my soul just like leave my body just because it was dying of heat exhaustion.
I don't know about y'all, but I would like science to try to figure out a way to not have my car be 150 degrees when I get in it.
I mean, isn't that right, dude?
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Just click a button and have it drop down to, like 65, just like that.
Maybe Tesla will come out with something like that.
You would think. Elon Musk needs to get on the stick.
Already has something like that.
They probably do. All right, so we got Zach for a short period of time, so we're going to get right into it. Zach, we believe that you hail from Tennessee. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, although I'm not a Volunteers fan, as surprising as that may be.
No, that's all right. How did your journey begin with the Washington football team?
Well, I guess it was all the way back in 2019, actually. Came up here from Tennessee to go to grad school at UMD. Got my master's over there. And I guess that was December 2018. And as I'm sure everyone knows, journalism is a very hard field to get into. Period. I had worked at a weekly newspaper in Tennessee, but I decided that, I don't really want to cover 1A high school football anymore. I want to do a little bit more than that. So came up here looking for more. And eventually I kind of did some freelancing stuff for a while after graduating and got a part-time job at the Washington Post that lasted all of a month. And George Solomon, the former sports director of the Poetry Center, kind of sent me an email. He's like, "Oh, hey, the Washington football team is." He didn't say Washington football team at the time. He would have been a prophet if he did that. But he mentioned, "Hey, this there's a job opening up. They need somebody right now." It was like week 4 of the season, so they needed somebody pretty soon. And came on, and ever since then, it has been a wild ride.
That's to say the least on that. That's great. Have you, obviously you're probably a fan of football since you wanted to cover it. What team did you like growing up?
Well, since I was from Tennessee, I was a big Titans fan growing up. And I was, surprisingly enough, I was an Auburn fan. I had a stepbrother at the time who was really big in Alabama. It was about when I was 19 years old. It was really when I was just starting to get into football. And I just want to do everything opposite of him, and Auburn is essentially the exact opposite of everything Alabama is. All right, that works perfectly well, actually.
Nice.
I continued that. I played high school and college football, Division III, but it was still something.
Hey.
It's been fun. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. All right, getting to the football team. What changes do you expect in the offense dynamics? With all the new additions, we have Curtis Samuel, we have Ryan Fitzpatrick, Diami Brown. It seems to look good on paper. What can we expect?
Yeah, on paper, it's definitely, you could say if there was a checklist of things they want to do this offseason, making the offense more explosive, at least from adding all these players, was definitely something they wanted to do, and they definitely did it. I mean, you bring in a guy like Curtis Samuel, who is, just about as dynamic as anybody would hope for, essentially. I think there's a stat that he had a 99.9 overall grade when being targeted over 20 yards downfield, which is just incredible. And then Diami Brown never dropped a contested pass ever in his career in North Carolina. So those two by themselves are enough to say, well, we've definitely gotten better at the receiver position. And then you bring in a guy like Adam Humphries, who is by far the most experienced receiver on the team at this point, and he's going to be your true slot guy, a guy that you really need. And plus, he's worked with Fitzpatrick before.
Yeah.
So you have someone who, if as Fitzpatrick is learning in this offense, but he's been at Harvard, so he's smarter than all six of us put together. But at the same time, it's still an offense that he needs to learn and kind of develop into. Almost, it's kind of weird to say develop it for a 17-year-old vet, but it's like he grows into it a little bit. And you'll have a guy in Adam Humphries, you can say, well, you know what he's going to be like. You know how he operates in the open field, in the middle of the field, and you can kind of dump it off to him if there's other options that are unavailable. And then, on top of that, you have, I think, a guy who maybe, be a little bit under the radar is Dax Milne. I think he was, one of the best receivers statistically, in college football last year. I think only like Devontae Smith and, only a couple of other guys were better than him on paper. So he might be a guy that, he's only 190 pounds, so he's not very big in general. He's a scrawny guy. I think he might be 195 soaking wet, but he still has some good hands, and I think he could be somebody who maybe comes in as another slot option. If you're like in 5 wide or something like that, you have a guy that can make some catches downfield. Same thing as what he did with Zach Wilson last year.
Sure.
Punt returning.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, it is. Our receiver room is jam packed, and I think hopefully, if for him to make the team, he would probably have to, contribute a lot on special teams. And we are looking for a consistent punt returner, so maybe that he can do that as well.
And being jam-packed, I think, is a good position to be in.
Sure.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely a good problem to have, considering, that last year, I mean, there were times when Terry was really the only drafted wide receiver in the lineup, which, I mean, that's no disrespect to like Cam Sims, Isaiah Wright, guys that, I mean, kind of become fan favorites, and especially Cam.
Yeah,
but
they work their butt off.
It's nice to have guys like Curtis, who was a second-round pick. Guys like, Adam Humphries, even though he's undrafted, was a guy who's done it pretty consistently, been one of the best slot options in the NFL for the past 7 years.
I think every cut out of that wide receiver room is going to be a tough one. I mean, we're used to looking at Malcolm Kelly and Devin Thomas and going, we got something cooking here. This is a wholly different animal. A lot of fans aren't used to this.
I think as fans, we need to get used to possibly seeing some guys we drafted go to other teams and actually play and be good.
No,
that's a good thing.
It's a good problem to have. That's for sure.
Yeah, we used to cut them. They go straight to UPS.
And that's something that I've kind of been thinking about a lot over the past, as we end closer to training camp, is that we might have to say goodbye to some players that have been on this team for a couple of years. And I don't want to say who that's going to be, because I have no idea, but it's with all this talent, especially wide receiver, you have to think we would love to keep all 12, but that's just not a reality. And
right.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. It's one of those jobs that, like, you realize, like, I'm really glad I'm not Drew Terrell or like Martin Mayhew, because I wouldn't know what to choose. And I've got like, a bunch of other lower tier players on there. Like, well, they all add something. I don't really know who to get rid of.
Like going off of that, how much does it factor in decisions if a player comes from a different regime? We've had Morgan Moses, Ryan Kerrigan be cut. Does that factor in at all? I
don't think so. Not really. I think maybe it might with some other coaches, some other places, but I don't think it does with Rivera. And this is kind of a point that I've brought up a couple times, even in, even your question you had about linebackers in the pick six last week. I mean, it's Rivera does a good job at giving his players that is available to him a chance to succeed. And now, I know they were really excited to see what Kelvin Harmon could do, because he's a big body guy and he played well whenever he had the chance back in 2019. But I don't really think that it ultimately matters that much. I think when it comes to guys like Moses and Kerrigan, guys who have, they've been established on the team for quite some time, especially Kerrigan, it's just that's almost just the nature of the NFL. Sure. You have, because you bring in, you have Morgan Moses and he's great, but you also have Sam Cosmi. If you listen to anything that's said about Sam Cosmi, like, there's a lot of hype around that guy. And then, you have guys like, Cornelius Lucas, who played really well last year. And then you have, Charles Leno. I mean, like, it's just the nature of the business. Then Kerrigan, on top of that, that's probably the ultimate example. I mean, we love Kerrigan. I wish him the best, even though he's with the Eagles.
Yeah.
Those fans who they express themselves very passionately. I'll say that.
Keith's married to one. So.
Yeah.
Is he really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think you have he's probably a starter somewhere, but you look at it and you're like, you have Chase Young and Montez Sweat, two guys
that's not going to happen.
Starters. Like I said, it sucks, but it's also like that's just the reality of the NFL, and that's the reality of where Rivera wants to take the team.
You got to manage your cap. You do that with youth.
Yeah.
Zach,
Keith, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I actually have a side question based upon what you said. In journalism, I know it's tough because, you technically, in journalism, you don't necessarily want to badmouth players. So there's always going to be positive things that are being said about players, and said players that are really trying to work hard and make the team. I mean, in your opinion, with the things that you've read about, Sammy Reyes and all of that, and all the hype that's been created around him, I mean, is that actual legitimate hype, or are these stories to kind of help these guys move forward through the process, that even if they don't make the team, they have chances possibly elsewhere if there's a need?
I think, it's, for me, I guess, especially since I'm working for a team, you obviously don't want to bash any of the players, obviously. Sure. But I think there's something to good to look at with every single player, especially because you have to realize this is the NFL. Everybody's good, so it's not like there's that much, like, it's not hard to find something positive to write about somebody. And I mean, with Sammy Reyes, for example, since you brought him up, I mean, he's definitely raw, but at the same time, like, the athletic ability is there. I mean, he played basketball at the Division I level. I mean, you have to be really talented athletically to do that. And it's one of those cases where, like, you have a chance to pursue a dream, and you have the ability to do it. You should be able to try. And I mean, and I will say that there is something to be said that in that pathway program that he was a part of, they didn't have to just sign him outright. They could have done like what they did with David Bada, and just had him on as part of the program, and then just kept him along, because he's technically not he's part of the roster, but he doesn't actually count on the active roster. So that's why they're able to keep him throughout the year. They could have just done that and said, to hell with it, we'll figure it out then. But they signed him to an actual deal. Yeah. And they signed him to an actual deal pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where you have a guy like Pete Hainer who works with guys like that, who can hone the talent to the best of their ability. I do think it's real. I mean, and if he ends up getting cuts, in one of 3 cut days, then it will be really unfortunate, because from what the reports are, I mean, there was a lot of interest in him from other teams. So maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe that has something to do with it. But I think you really want. I would say if he's good enough to stay on the roster, I think they would want to keep him.
Sure. Yeah, I just use him as an example, not necessarily picking on him and saying he's not going to make the team. It's just I've always wondered if that's how it works, because again, in journalism, it's it's definitely not good practice to badmouth or trash and bash any player. So I just wondered if that was help in the event if the player is going to move on to another team, and it helps them still get a job in the NFL. So thank you for answering that.
Well, yeah, and I think it's also just like it's a decency thing. I think because at the end of the day, like, I know if it were me, I mean, I get like. I think one time there was a submission on for the Pick Six. It was saying like, there's not any new articles posted on the website every day, and I'm like, I post 1 to 2 stories every day on the website, so I know for a fact that it's not accurate. But it's like I said, it's just a decent thing. Like, you don't want anyone like criticizing you like unfairly, or because at the end of the day, and this is something I tell a lot of people, is that as like, I know a little bit about football, the inner workings of it, but I will never know anything compared to what the coaches and players know.
Sure.
It's always going to be a small minority, and
that's the same with us fans.
Say that again loudly. There's a lot of people that need to hear that.
I think like as
pretend to know.
Yeah, I mean, like, we talk about the things that the 1% of things that we know about, and like if we just like don't pretend that like we can actually have like a deep 500 level, 600 level like discussion with the inner workings of football with these coaches and players, our relationship will be a lot better. Because the last thing coaches and players want is for you to assume that you know anything about their lives.
Right. You know what, Zach? It's interesting you bring that up because I'm very reluctant. You know, there are a lot of fans that criticize the play calling. We don't know what we're looking at. We don't. Well, I'm just going to speak for I don't know scheme. I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know disguises. I don't know blitzes. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to criticize play calling, but we still, like you said, we don't know half of what these guys know.
Beyond scheme, you don't even know what's going on in terms of the players. This guy might have a sore ankle. This dude's finger is hurting. This guy over there needs to go pee. Who the hell knows? So they call plays, and sometimes they don't call a play to score. Sometimes they call a play so they can run the running back right into that linebacker's leg. Hit him again.
Well, I'm going to continue to go on Twitter and pretend, so I don't know about you.
We all will, but we'll just know better.
With training camp right around the corner, what position battles are you looking forward to most?
Well, I think, just to avoid the easy ones, I think wide receiver is obviously like an easy one, right? Because they're just, like we said, there's just so many guys out there. Safety is another one, but there's like just so many guys out there. I think for me, just a little bit of a background, I used to be like 300 pounds. So I was a college offensive lineman. So I do know a little bit about that history.
Wow. Okay.
It's that's another story for another day. But it's I think that's going to be a very interesting position because we brought up Morgan Moses is gone. Left tackle is, you have Cornelius Lucas, but you also have a Pro Bowler who's been in Charles Lane, who's been around the league for 8 years and done pretty solid at it. I think the interior is pretty much set, right? I mean, because you have Chase just signed a contract. I mean, you have Sheriff down for another year with the franchise tag, and then you have that left guard spot. It seems like Schweitzer is going to have that at least in the immediacy of camp, but I mean, you never know. I guess what Sadiq wants to do or anything like that. But I mean,
Flowers,
Flowers too. I mean, you have to, and then you have with Sadiq, you have to consider he could be a left tackle or a right tackle as well. So you have the bookends really being the key part here because you're going to have a guy in Fitzpatrick who's going to take chances regardless of what's going to be on the field. I mean, it's for better or for worse. He's going to take a chance. Hopefully, it's a lot more better than worse, but you want to have at least some protection for him to make those decisions. And it seems like Cosme is he's pretty good. I think, he's not got the starting job yet, but he's going to have to earn at least the opportunity to get it. And then you have Lucas, who played well, like I said, last year. And then Leno, the guy they brought in, along with Bobby McCain in that same sort of general area of time that they feel like, could compete to be starters. So I think that could be a big, and as far as that, I think the offense is pretty much set, which is a weird thing to say after the past couple of years because there's just been so much like indecision as far as who's the number 2 opposite of Terry. Well, Curtis Samuel is going to be that. Who's going to be the quarterback this year? Well, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be that guy. You have Antonio Gibson as really the number 1 back, and then you have 1A and J.D. McKissick. Logan Thomas is the tight end. Really, the tackles is really all that's left there, and then once they have those set, I mean, the offense could be really good this year.
Yeah, it could.
So I have a question. Zach, I have a question. So one of the things, you hear in Ron we trust, and in Ron I trust. I think he's been a really great addition for this organization. But one of the things that I think is a fair thing to ask is when you look at his record at Carolina. His record was a bit inconsistent. I mean, he'd have a 11-5 season, and then a 7-9 season, a 6-10 season, and a 15-1 season. What do you think is a realistic expectation to say that this upcoming season was a successful season?
Good question.
That is a good question. I'll say this. A lot of times you can look at a roster, look at a team, and you can say, well, I see a 6-win team or a 5-win team. But it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like we don't really know, but like sometimes you can just see like, the 0-16 Lions back in 2008 where, it seemed like that was pretty much an 0-16 team.
Right.
To me, I would say, last year I saw a team that was definitely better than it was in 2019, but maybe not like it was kind of hovering in like the the 500, maybe a little bit below sort of range. And I think, last year, if we just said that we won 6 games, I think that we said, hey, we doubled our win total, that was going to be a success. But I think this year, I don't see a below 500 team. I think it's just impossible. I think it's, to me, I mean, obviously anything can happen, but I think it's, would you look at what they've pretty much answered every single offseason question they have. I mean, at least in the short term, with Fitzpatrick here for 1 year, established starter, knows what he's doing, been all kinds of systems. Receiver, they've answered all those questions. Running back, Antonio Gibson, probably one of my not underrated, but one of my more favorite players to watch in the offense. Logan Thomas doing really well. I mean, the defensive line is the defensive line, one of the best units in the league. Then you have the linebacker. I've heard some people say a little questions about linebacker. I still think that they're fine with it for now, just to see how it'll be. I mean, and then you have Bobby McCain in there. Then you have depth and Benjamin St. Juste and Kendall Fuller getting another year. I mean, and William Jackson, one of the best man corners it was last year, period. I just don't see a below 500 win team this year. I think they could very well be like, we could win, more than 500, over 500 wins. I'm not going to put a specific win total on there publicly yet, but I would say that it wouldn't surprise me if they go a little bit over that 7-win hump that they had last year. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, and they've kind of already achieved the big role of, it's easier to go from a 3-win team to a 7, 8, or maybe even a 9-win team. But it's that extra jump to go to a 10-win team that's a little bit more difficult for other teams to accomplish. I think they've at least made some steps to address that issue. I think they're there. But again, it just comes down to like, what's the season going to produce?
Sure.
Yep.
That's right.
Another side question, Zach.
Yeah.
When Fitzpatrick was signed, what was the energy like inside Ashburn?
I'd say it was pretty optimistic, honestly. I mean, when I saw, I think, I found out, gosh, it was the reports came in about like 10 o'clock at night or something like that.
Yeah, it was late.
It was definitely, I remember thinking like, that's not what I thought they were going to do.
Right.
But then like you look at it and you're like, that's probably the best option that they could really have.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, there's just a lot of youth on this team. And then you bring in, like, I think Fitzpatrick is one of the oldest active players in the NFL. So it comes down to, I think there was a lot of optimism. I think there was a lot of excitement because, look at what he did with the Jets back, I forget when that was. I think it was like 2013, 2014. That was really the one time when he had like an established offense that was not just like a scrounge to put in together. He's not really like a bridge starter. He's not really just kind of fix a situation. You have like Eric Decker. You have, a pretty established offense and a pretty good defense. And he ended up having his best statistical year. So, I mean, and I would say even then, I think this team is definitely better than that Jets team was, I would say. So you have to look at that and look at the similar situation and realize that, like, this could be really good. So after the initial thinking of like, the contemplation for me of saying, okay, that's not what I thought they were going to do, but at the same time, this could be something really good. I mean, maybe he's not the start of the future, but he's an opportunity to really grow and develop the offense.
Absolutely.
Whatever comes down the road in 2022.
I do have another question.
Yeah.
I got kicked out. Could you repeat all that, please?
Just kidding.
Sorry.
We keep hearing the term position flex. How do you expect how do you expect for that to play out on offense? How unconventional or groundbreaking could they get?
I think I don't think anything necessarily is groundbreaking. The only thing that I really saw that was really interesting was there were a couple of plays that Scott Turner had that were kind of unique. I mean, I think you look at I think it was the Cowboys last year in the first matchup when Logan Thomas kind of went into motion and then lined up at quarterback and then ran in for a sneak. I think that's a really small example of position flex, but when you have a tight end who play quarterback, you're going to use that ability. Sure. I think a lot of it is going to come down to, not necessarily anything like any kind of backyard football XFL sort of thing, but I think it's going to be, maybe you put Terry out there at the slot one play, then you move him out there to the X, or maybe you put Antonio Gibson out there to receiver like they did a couple of plays, or maybe even J.D. McKissick, or maybe a couple of trick plays that Logan Thomas did. I mean, a lot of people I think get the whole position flex thing to be confused with playing a lot of positions. I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, yes, it's a part of it, but I also think that it comes down to handling a lot of different roles and responsibilities for what you're doing. A couple of years ago, Rivera brought up how Cole Holcomb has a really good position flex. And that was because he was able to cover pretty well, but also play in the run really well, too. I mean, he could play all three positions. Same thing with Jamin Davis this year. He can play all three positions and do all three responsibilities pretty well. So I think that's what it comes down to. I think that's really what's going to help out the offense the best. You don't need a lot of flashy plays. And Scott Turner is going to throw those out there for sure. I think, especially with Curtis Samuel being, in a backfield threat that he did. He was able to be, in Carolina. I don't know what he's going to run, but I'm pretty sure that he's at least thought of doing that kind of stuff. Sure. But yeah, I think it just comes down to not doing anything necessarily flashy, but also just being able to put on different hats in the roles that you have, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah,
it does.
No doubt. Well, Zach, we really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us today. What do you have coming down the pipeline? You working on anything right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of rolling through these position breakdowns that I've been doing. Linebackers came out the other day. Tomorrow, I think it's going to be safeties, and then Friday we'll wrap it up with corners. But yeah, right now it's almost like the calm before the storm, honestly. Yeah. And then we're also, putting out the Meet the Fan series, which Keith will be the first week of training camp, since you're going to be there, right, Keith?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have you out there. It was really funny. I didn't tell you that you were going to meet Jason that day, but he emailed me that morning. He was like, "Hey, just let me know whenever he's here." And because I thought about it, I'm like, it'd be cooler if I just surprised him. And I remember, as I'm taking you down over to his office, I remember go, "Oh boy."
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting. I didn't know.
Giddy after that.
He
molested him for Pete's sake.
I didn't know where I was headed, and then when I saw the nameplate, and I was like, "Oh man, this is just the whole experience." Zach was so surreal, and that's kind of why I ask questions based upon what you do, because a lot of us would love to be inside that building and doing some type of work. So. But no, I appreciate you, for entertaining me that day, bringing me in. It was the first time I had been there, the first experience I got. And honestly, like I said, the whole day, all I did was talk about my dad. And, honestly, I fulfilled a dream right there. I mean, that's really, I know you guys wanted me to talk about, the fan leadership, and it was just so hard to, because if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And so to be able to tell that story to you guys was an absolute amazing experience. And honestly, it brought a lot of closure to me. And I appreciate that opportunity of you guys bringing me in. I really do. And then just meeting with Jason was just an unreal experience. So, I was able to sit down with you guys and actually talk like just normal human beings. And that was what was so cool about the experience. So again, definitely appreciate that. And anytime you need me, if you need you need to hire a guy to go get you coffee every day, you just let me know. I'll make that drive.
I'll put that on my list, man. No,
I appreciate it.
I really do appreciate you talking about your dad. And honestly, and this is something that I've kind of had a stance on ever since I started this job was, outside media can, they have their sources. They're sometimes they're going to be able to report on things that we can't necessarily report on at the time. But one thing that we should never be able to be worse at is telling stories about our fans and our players. That is a bedrock foundation of what I want to do in this career, period. And you talking about your dad is exactly why we did this stuff, was because we want to know about you guys, and that I want to know about you guys. Hell, I mean, I spend more time in empty stadiums than actually being in full stadiums at this time, because I started, week 4 in the middle of the 2019 season. So hearing about you guys and getting the people stories is really what I think makes sports go around in general. Because yes, seeing stuff on the field is great. Touchdowns are awesome. Sacks are great. But what happens off the field, not just with the players, not just with the coaches, not just with the owners and, the GMs, all this front office staff people, it is what you guys do. Because I say it a lot, you guys pay the bills, you help keep the lights on, and we wouldn't be here without you. So that was perfect. And I can't wait to start writing that story, man. I really can.
I appreciate that. And again, I think that was the connection that was gone for a long time. And that connection is finally brought back. And you guys are doing that because I understand, I'm not the only person in the world with a story. And I know that there's a lot of other fans out there that have unique stories as well. And so it'll be really cool to, see them, get to share theirs as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, again, Zach, thanks a lot for coming on. You guys can catch Zach Selby at Zach Selby WFT, or just go to WashingtonFootball.com. He's got tons of articles. He puts 1 or 2 out each and every day. Read them. They're awesome. And we appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Absolutely. Hey, before I leave, Keith,
Sure.
What is your favorite dessert? Because I will make it for you if I get the chance. Because one thing, aside from doing Washington stuff, which I love, I also love to bake, which is kind of a weird thing for a guy to do, but I love to bake. So what is your favorite?
Something bland. I can tell you that right now.
No,
Miracle
sir.
Whip pie.
I am a
some salt
double
on top.
chocolate type of guy. So if I had a double chocolate cake type of ordeal where it was real fancy, even it doesn't have to be ice cream cake, but double chocolate fancy cake, I can get down with that.
Well, the ice cream cake might be a little bit difficult in Richmond.
Right.
It might melt before you get there.
Well, that's why I hesitated, because I'm like, that's not going to survive very long.
Hey, Zach,
I got a couple ideas for you.
I'm easy,
Okay.
Zach. I'm a pound cake dude.
I haven't made pound cake in a hot minute. I'll have to make one of those too.
Pound cake's good, though. Pound cake's good.
Yep. All right, guys. It's
All
been
right,
great
man.
talking
Thanks
to
a
you.
lot. Well, yeah,
Yep.
We'll see you at training camp.
See you guys.
See you.
Bye.
Zach Selby, everybody. We appreciate him coming on. Again, go check him out at WashingtonFootball.com. He's got really good articles, and it's awesome that he spent some time with us. How's it going, fellas?
Going good. Going good.
Good.
Yeah, so we had an interesting couple of weeks. Let's talk about, we had an emergency pod or bonus podcast that we did last night, just because of the name drop. The Jason Wright put out, his weekly briefing, and they're not going to go in the direction of the Warriors. So me and Keith were on with some other podcasts, Kyle Ronick of the Burgundy Zone, and Big Doug, and also I Am Rant Burgundy, Brandon. He came on, and we had a really good discussion last night. So I want to hear from John and Disco. Disco, I'll start with you. What do you make of that whole situation with Warriors being one of the most popular names that fans wanted being left out?
I think I tweeted about this. I think Jason Wright is smart in that I think it's smart to steer clear Warriors, because as he mentioned in his briefing, that you don't want anything that's already going to be divisive. But at the same time, I told him that I said that I vehemently disagree that Warriors automatically has a Native American connotation. I think that's where some people's minds go. But I mean, a warrior could be anything. It's a root of war. So it could be a soldier, anything. But I think they're smart to steer clear of it. It does have a nice ring, but I think if you go Warriors, then you're opening yourself up to a huge can of worms. So,
yeah. What the argument, and we had a wide variety, of inputs on it, and
I came to fight yesterday.
He did. He
I like
came,
to call it over
in a suit, Keith?
No, that was just
yesterday. He had a muscle shirt on and a tie. He looked like he was.
Hey,
he
listen,
wanted to
this is
step in a ring.
This is my buy
You
one
look
get
like
one
a
free
homeless
suit.
person.
Man, well, you looking sharp, brother. You looking sharp, man.
I appreciate it, except for I don't have pants on, so it's kind of weird. This whole thing's weird.
That's not weird. Go ahead,
John.
and tell the truth. Yes,
John. Let's get to your thoughts, man. What do you think about them dropping the name?
All right. I think that there's several answers to this. One of them is the real answer and the obvious answer, and the other two are the answers that they're going to use for public relations. And the obvious answer is this is the NFL. It is one of the premier professional sports leagues in the world. They're not going to share the spotlight with anybody, and there's already a Warriors. Simple as that. You're not going to see them do something like that. There's a Giants in the baseball and Major League Baseball, and then also in New York for the football Giants, but that has a historical connection. The San Francisco Giants used to be the New York Giants. The Cardinals actually started in Chicago. Mm-hmm. So them being in St. Louis at the same time was just a bit of a coincidence. But they're not going to pick a name and shine the spotlight to somebody else. When I say to you, the Cowboys, do you think of Oklahoma State? No, you think of Dallas, the Vikings, the Eagles, or even a name that is as broad as the Eagles, you automatically think the NFL and football. So they're going to go with something that's unique that they can be in sole possession of, so that's who you think about without a whole lot of extra discussion. Number two, why not say, oh, well, we're not going to jump on board with any native imagery and still ride that feel good. Let's appeal to the younger fan base that's more interested in the politics of how they do things than anything else. The younger fan base, the younger generations, they're used to being on social media, and practically, I would say all of us, we didn't grow up in the kind of an era that they do where every decision they make is based on, oh, well, this person, he hates dogs, so I'm not going to buy his popcorn or whatever the fuck it is. They're more socially conscious, or at least they like to pretend to be. And that's a growing demographic. So they're going to court that, and they're going to say that because that's going to appeal to them, right? Even if it's not the actual answer. The other side of it is, okay, a warrior, like Disco said, it can be of any culture. There's been warriors ever since the first humans stood upright. One of them grabbed a stick and hit the other one. Yeah, it's just the way it's been. So that's why he stood up. There was a better stick up higher. So look, if you're going to depict a warrior, like Disco said, it could be a sword, right? It doesn't have to be Native American imagery. It doesn't have to be a spear or anything like that. But you do take the chance of running afoul of these idiots that just say, oh, that's wrong because I want people to like me on my Facebook page and on my Twitter account and say, oh, you're so smart. I agree with everything you say. And that's why they say it. So if you're going to depict a warrior, you're going to have to depict a person. And every ethnicity looks different, and you're going to have to pick one. So you can't. Can you show me a generic person? What are you going to do? Just make a smiley face?
But there's generic logos. I mean,
there are generic.
The college that I graduated from, UCF Knights, I mean, it's a generic logo.
True.
Yeah, I was the Clippers, so
a knight is a specific kind of warrior, right? With a warrior, you don't want to jump on anything that's people bound, because then you run the risk, like Disco said, you run the risk of just that one jackass that goes, you already see it now with the wolves. Oh, this is Native American imagery too. No, it's the ancient cultures, all of them worship wolves at one point or another. It's at the end of the day, it's just an animal, and an animal like a red wolf or a gray wolf, they all look the fucking same. Yeah. You can draw a gray wolf and it looks the same as every other gray wolf, but people, we're all different. You can't make a generic, something like that. So you just steer clear and stay away from it. But the real reason is this is the NFL. They're not going to share the spotlight with Golden State.
That's a good point. And I don't think anybody really brought that aspect of it too. Are you buying? I mean, I guess, you got to put politically correct, stuff out when Jason Wright's doing his briefing. But are you buying what he's saying at all?
I think that, like I said, it's the other side of the coin. The coin has two sides. One of the sides is, this is why we're not doing it. Golden State already has it. We're not going to share the spotlight. We want to be 100% synonymous with nobody but ourselves. The other side of the coin is, why not ride that wave of good feeling that they get among the younger generation that makes their decisions based on things like that? Why not just tell them that's what it is?
Also, with that visit with Jason, one of the things that he brought up was that Washington Post article, where it favored where, the Native Americans were for, the old name.
Sure.
He said that article was completely wrong, and they have definitely have done their data and analytics and decided that this was definitely going to be, the direction that they're going as far as staying away anything that is Native American related imagery, so on and so on. So that's why yesterday the big argument was with wolves, and because listen, hold on though. But the thing is, I didn't create that argument. Okay, I didn't create that wolves, is the spirit animal of the Native Americans. The people that were for the red wolves and for wolves, they're the same people. They were the ones creating that narrative in the beginning to get folks like myself, possibly Disco. I don't want to speak for you, Disco, but the older generation to understand, hey, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because 1 equals 2, 1 + 1 = 2. And that's what they were trying to show. But then here we are today. Now you're walking back after Jason Wright has made a statement stating that we're staying away from all of that. Now we're walking back and we're trying to erase the dots that we were connecting a year ago. Come on, stop.
Disco, let me ask this. Do you think a wolf should be in the same category as a warrior when we're talking names?
Absolutely not. A wolf is a wolf. I mean,
exactly.
Here's another part to that. So if we're so concerned with Native American imagery and offending Native Americans, then maybe we need to do a little bit more studying of Native American culture. So, if everybody's we don't want to offend Native, we don't want to be ignorant, and we don't want to be dismissive.
Right.
But now all of a sudden we want to be concerned about Native American history, Native Americans being offended. Yep. But and I don't want to get too deep in the Native Americans argument, but if you talk to many Native Americans, where does this issue fall in the top 5, just in terms of, because there are real issues such as, and again, I'm not suggesting that this excuses any type of negative or ignorant imagery. I am saying there are issues with alcoholism, there are issues with education. Mm-hmm. Sure. So if you really want to have discussions about what's important to Native Americans, go all the way.
I said this in a few podcasts, God knows which one. I don't even know if it was my own, but we want to now honor Native Americans. Where were we when the Native Americans started fussing about the name to begin with? Why did we not? And when I say we, I'm using that as a general. Okay, all of us could have done our part, maybe, I guess, I don't know, but hold on, the team carrying the name could have done a better job at reversing the psychology of what this name was supposed to mean to us, and did a better job, like doing the research that Disco was saying, being more involved in the Native American communities to actually show them that it's more than a bunch of dudes drinking beer, pounding our chest, and slamming into each other. And that representation,
that is fun, though.
It is fun, but that representation, that's what was, represented. We had people wearing headdresses and so on and so on, but we weren't really out there to truly honor what we're now today saying, oh, we're honoring. Native Americans don't see a logo slapped on a football helmet as a way to honor them. The majority, I'm not going to speak for all tribes. Okay. I'm not out there doing the research. So if people really want to know, well, how come you folded so quickly on arguing about the name? That's the reason. That's the true reason, because we failed to truly honor these people. And honestly, if they say that this hurts and we didn't do anything to show them otherwise, we get what we deserve. And that's now a nameless team. So it is what it is.
one of the things that you guys said on last night's emergency podcast was that Dan Snyder can't lose. And I am going to pick such a bone with that, because when he bought this team, they were the ranked number 3 professional sports franchise for value in the world. And they are now 19. That is hundreds of millions of dollars that he has lost because of the way he's meddled with this team. Yeah, right.
Stop nitpicking. Stop
This whole thing
nitpicking,
was
old
done for
man.
money. This whole thing was done over money. It's all about money.
In a sense, in like
We
the
said
past
he can't
year.
lose because man's been slapped around with all these allegations.
No, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is the Native American angle towards why this name was changed is the feel-good Band-Aid. This is why we're doing it. But the fact of the matter is we're doing it because Dan has run this goddamn airplane right into the mountainside, and he's taken a whole generation of fans and said, yeah, why don't y'all go to Baltimore? They're not that far away, and they've got much better record than we do all the time. And they left. You know, all of us, we grew up with the team, but these kids now, you know, what do they have to go?
They want winners.
Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Dad.
The young crowd, they want winners, and and unfortunately, we haven't been that since we were.
Now, as far as Native American imagery goes, who was Buffalo Bill? Anybody want to tell me who was Buffalo Bill? Why is Buffalo Bill famous? Because Buffalo Bill killed more buffalo than anybody, which any historian will tell you is the number one cause of the downfall of the native way of life. They deprived them of their food source and all of the things that came with it.
Yeah.
And now he is the name of a football team, and they try to say, it's just another guy named William.
I mean, Buccaneer, Raider.
Right.
Yeah, you can go on and on and on.
I mean, what did Raiders do? What did Buccaneers do? What did Vikings do? I mean, you know, so
exactly. Cowboys too. What did Cowboys do? Cowboys killed Native Americans.
I was in denial. And I was in denial in the process.
Egyptians.
Again, I'm walking back, right? And I'm allowed to do that because I'm allowed to grow. I mean, I'm 42 years old, but it don't matter. I mean, there's growth anywhere. And so I'm walking back everything that I said a year ago, because man, I was slamming everybody, calling everybody hypocrites. I told everyone they rolled over. I mean, I was a complete asshole about this whole thing, right? And I deserve everything that I get.
I was
today.
right there with you, man.
And it's fine. You know, I get what I get today, and it's fine. I can handle it, right? If I'm going to dish it, I'm going to take it. At the end of the day, football names were not chosen because they were pretty names. They were chosen because they were battle names, right? Yes. So when you hear the term
Cardinals,
right?
Tweet, tweet, tweet.
Well, I'm not. God, Jonathan Taymen. I'm just the point I'm making on Keith. The point I'm making is
our job.
Yeah, you can pick on me all you want. I'll still trash all of you on Twitter. But anyways, you know, listen. Let's be honest here, Redskins. It wasn't because of the actual skin color.
You're right.
It wasn't because they were brown, right? Redskins was because they were scalped and the blood, which is what caused the red skin. Okay. So let's just be honest here. And that's what it is. And then you want to talk about the name being a slur. That's where it all, you know, comes in. So again, a year later, when you can think logically about it, stop. And this is exactly what I told a lot of other people. When you can start hearing other people's perspectives and think logically about the name, okay, without getting too deep into
emotional.
And emotional. And but I was a Redskins fan with my dad, you know, and that's how I was. And I'm not making fun of anyone else who was like that. I'm making fun of myself because I think that a year later, that at the end of the day, it's just a football team, right?
It's just a name, right?
It's just a football team. And
you root for the players.
Correct. Yeah. You're
exactly
rooting for the team. You're rooting for the city, even though I'm not from there. But this is what came to me for me being born, right? My dad was a fan. And was he a fan because they were called the Redskins? Like, I wish he was alive so I could be like, hey, Dad, were you a fan because you like the word Redskins? Or was it because you like the players?
Like Riggins, yeah.
It was because you like John Riggins. It was because Doug Williams,
or it's your hometown team,
was his favorite.
Like that.
Let me ask you guys this though. Let me ask you guys this question: Does it matter to you that Dan Snyder was forced to change the name, or whether he had an epiphany, which is probably not true? Does it matter how we got to the change, or does the actual change matter?
Good question.
For one, for me, I'll say this, because I think there's a third option, and it's changed because he has destroyed it and needs to do something to rebuild it. So For me, in that regard, yeah, I hold that against him because he wrecked my fucking team, and I don't care if he changes the name or not. But he wrecked my fucking team. I've been 20 years sitting here watching that bastard destroy my team, and so I know you guys have different theories as to why this happened. My theory is it's about money. He lost a shit ton of it with that team.
It's
He's
a
run it right into
combination.
the ground, and he has to change his image.
It's a combination, but it has nothing to do with sincerity.
But you called it
Yeah,
woke
I don't
world
believe that.
yesterday,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I'm with Keith. I don't believe that it has
No.
anything to
He
with
didn't do it for the
sincerity.
right
He didn't have a
reason.
choice.
He didn't do it
know,
for the moral reason.
Just think about this in 1 year. I mean, for anybody that thinks Dan Snyder woke up and in 1 year he changed the name. He hired an African American team president. He has a woman as in Julie Donaldson's role.
He's got women coaches.
Right. There's a lot of diversity, which is great. So part of me says, you know what? I don't care how we got here. It seems like we're kind of being on our way to being a beacon of what we should do. So in a way, and I'm not trying to be sensitive to past issues, I don't really care. We're not being clowned like we used to. We've got something we can possibly be proud of. So I don't care how we got here.
So if you look throughout history, though, Disco, anybody that sees the light gets dragged into it most of the time.
If anybody thinks that Dan Snyder did this on his own volition, you just got to lay off the crack because it's not him. Things wouldn't change if somebody didn't step in.
100% Disco, 100%. Like, it sucks because you would like to feel like, okay, all these were done for all the right reasons. We know chances were they weren't. We know chances that it was for the look. But at the end of the day, these folks, it's done, and these folks are seizing their opportunity, and they're gonna run, and they're gonna succeed, and they're gonna be good as hell at what they do.
And Keith, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna take it a step further. I know a lot of people are like, well, Snyder, he got off the hook with a $10 million fine. With all of these changes in a short amount of time, I think he was damn close to losing this team.
They got leverage on him, Disco.
I think he was. Now the NFL, it wouldn't be in the NFL's best interest to like drag Snyder publicly, but I think he was damn close to losing it more than people think.
Well, it's like I said in the podcast a couple of weeks ago. They are a small group and they police themselves. So whatever they do to one can be done to them. All right. So I think they got leverage on him.
Someone's got a book of all the dirty deeds from every
owner. Shit, yeah.
And I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this to the low level, but it kind of coincides with what Disco was saying. For me, like, as far as like the ambassadorship, I didn't get there because I was a kindly gentleman to folks, right? I trolled for how many years and but I got there. And all I've been wanting to do was to find a way, and I didn't care what it was. It could be ambassador, it could be get Zach coffee, it could be whatever it was. I wanted to share my dad's story somehow, some way, and I wanted it to be noticed. And for years, I tried to figure out how could I do that. And I didn't think trolling my way through the process was going to get me there. However, and I'm not a noble guy 100. I mean, I am, but when people get to know me, but when the fake me on Twitter, I'm not this noble. I don't come across as this noble guy, right? I usually look for arguments more than anything else.
You're a smart ass and a punk, and
correct. But my long-winded point that I'm trying to make though is it's not how I got there. It's the fact that I'm there and I'm going to seize what opportunity I can from it. And if that means, hey, my ambassadorship is done in December and I'm good and that's it, I fulfilled what I've been looking for. And that was really to be a part of something bigger than me and to share my dad's story. That's it. That's right. And so taking it back to Disco's point, you got, female coaches, you have, females in high level positions in the social media content, you have Jason Wright, African-American team president. At this point, man, we can't think about how we got there, even though I wish we could say, yeah, he did it for the right reasons, but we can't. But man, they're there. And I'm telling you, talking with Jason and just that eye-to-eye contact and the things this man was telling me, man, he's seizing every opportunity he can. And I envy that one. And he's 38 years old, 38 years old.
Yeah.
And a 42-year-old is sitting next to him. Jason, I love you. I love you, Jason. Right?
Let me hug
38-year-old intelligent man is seizing his opportunity. And man, I hope he kills it with this team and continues.
He's killing it now.
It pisses me off when I see the Jason Wright slander. It's very minimal. It's very minimal. And hey, that's why he wheeled me back the other day, because he saw it. He saw me kind of reverting back to my old ways. And he's just like, bro, social media is a terrible platform to try to have any kind of real meaningful discussion. Move on.
That's right.
I get it. Man, that was the best advice I could have gotten in that situation, because I found myself like getting ready to fight for Jason, and Jason's over here laughing like, why are you fighting for me?
But I think
they're not going to stop fighting.
There's kind of it's an insult to think that, he can't think for himself, act for, and even, Julie and some of the other higher ups, like, oh, they're just pawns. They're just, that's a slap in the face to them. It seems like they're working damn hard. Now, we've known what has happened in the past, but for me, and again, we can't erase the past, and we know there's some things there that we can't, that are horrible. But what if
John Beck?
What if we said the one thing I've heard after every single loss on sports talk radio and driving home in the car is, I wish Dan would hire football people and get out of the way.
Yes.
He's done that, and he's doing that. And 7-9 is not anything to to beat your chest with. But if any fool can see, unless you're just a complete hater, that this team is headed in the right direction, and it starts at the top. And when you start doing good things and hiring good people, then good things are going to happen. The last point I'll make is that one of the things I often heard is they say, yeah, you can hire all of these people, but who has Dan's ear? And that's the thing. Who has Dan Snyder's ear? Bruce Allen had it. Vinny Serrato had it. When you had other good people around them, who has Dan's ear? That's
to be smart. It'll be one of his cheerleaders. God dang it.
No, you made some great points, and I think they got to have somebody in his ear now that's actually steering him in the right direction. We've said it before. Bruce has gotten away with a lot of stuff as well, and between him and Vinny Serrato, it's just been a mess for 25 plus years. And you're right, things are now in the right direction. We were 3-13 the year before last, and now we doubled.
We're expecting 11.
At least 9 to 11 wins this season, and I don't think that's an unacceptable. It's not within reason. We can get there. We can definitely get there. We have the right people at the top. We have the right coaches. We're getting the right players because the adults are in the room and the adults are making the decision.
Wouldn't you be slightly disappointed with only 9 wins in a 17-game season? After what we've seen, what this defense can do, what they've put into the offense, and how they've built, I'd be slightly disappointed. It would be an improvement.
You could take that way, but if we get 9 wins, I'm going to call that successful because of the schedule that we have, the gauntlet of quarterbacks that we play this year. I've always said we could be better and play better, but the stats and the records might not reflect it just because of the powerhouse teams that we're going up against this year.
Mm-hmm. I think that I would love for one day and I think it's happening. I would love for a pivot to happen where teams are looking at us and they're like, we've got the Washington football team on the schedule. We're kind of looking at like, well, we've got a tough schedule, and we still have this, and it's warranted. We still have this inferiority complex that I think this team can play probably within. I mean, we play with the Bucks. I mean, they didn't blow us out, and I'm not suggesting that we're on the same plane as the Bucks. What I'm saying is,
if our defense played a little bit better, it could have been even closer. You're right.
I'm saying if we looking at the roster, it's really hard to play the schedule game because, hey, look, nobody expected us to win the Steelers game.
That's true.
And nobody
not at all.
expected us to get swept by the Giants. So the NFL is such a crapshoot.
It is.
Not only that, but with the schedule game, you can't factor in for who's going to be hurt, who's not going to be there.
True.
Well, let's remember
Right.
this. Much as I want to beat the living shit out of the Giants, Saquon Barkley missed all of last year, and that dude scares the crap out of me.
And I don't think people are giving the Giants the respect they deserve. I think they
Right.
drafted well. I
Agreed.
actually think they're the better team over the Cowboys, but
The Giants
people
scare
have no
me.
they
do.
have no faith in Daniel Jones, and it's because the guy did a lot of goofy stuff last season, but I don't think he's as bad as people think.
And I think Leonard Williams is the best defensive lineman in the division, to be honest with you.
Right. So
My
I
opinion.
I
Oh,
personally
hot
think
take.
I personally think
No.
I personally think the Giants are going to be the competition in the division.
And people might call me crazy, but I'm more afraid of the Giants than the Cowboys out of this division.
Cowboys
haven't
defense
been
is
able to
still
stop
a piece
the
of
run.
shit.
And
Exactly.
And to go back to the schedule prediction too, by the way, sorry to cut you off there, John, but to do the schedule predict, I did one with, actually it was on
Big Doug show.
The Big Doug show. Yep.
Yeah.
With his guy rapper Big Pooh, and we did a schedule prediction, and all three of ours were absolutely ridiculous. But mine being the worst.
Y'all went game by game. You didn't.
We went game by game.
Yeah,
we went game by game.
We had
And
us
I
at
had us at
14,
12 and 4.
13.
Yeah, it was either 13 or 14. And I was like, whoa, I gotta, that's crazy. And again, that's the fan coming out of me, because, you never want to say that your team's going to lose. As much as people think, oh, Keith, he's only active on Twitter when the team loses. Well, hell yeah, because I love to see the meltdown. But do I like when the team loses? Hell no. But 12 and 4, that was, a little crazy. But again, that's when you're looking at game by game in a small perspective without having anything in front of you to remind you. And it just goes to show you how different it would be unless you had all of that in front of you, and have analytical research to actually, make an informed decision. And then, like I said, then you're talking injuries, all these things that you have no idea what's going to happen in the season. So yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I look at it like this. Our defense was good last year. It got better this year. Okay. We have a pretty competent quarterback that's going to push the ball down the field. We didn't have anybody to push the ball down the field last year.
He tried.
I mean, not even really. I mean, Dwayne Haskins
He pushed his nose in stripper booty. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Alex
true.
Smith pushed the ball about 5
hopping
yards
around on one leg, and it just kept throwing dump off passes. We added receivers, which was a huge need. Okay. And we are fast. So that has to correlate into something better than a 7-9 record, even with the schedule that we have going on. That's why I'm saying I think we're going to win between 9 and 11 games. And I would be happy with that.
And I don't know if you paid attention to the statistics, but last year, every time we started the ball was kind of like around the 30, 35, but Alex's leg was always at the 15.
Yeah. Oh. So what do you got? So we're optimistic. What are you concerned about?
Right.
I'm going to get into it right now. Actually, it's a great segue. Our weekly breakdown this week is going to be the linebackers. Yes, we drafted Jamin Davis, 19th overall. Great pick. Okay. We filled a hole, but we still have another hole at linebacker. I don't trust John Bostic. I'm okay with Cole Holcomb. Is he a world beater? No, but he's got some skill. And I think between him and Davis, if Davis plays, Davis has got to play middle linebacker. I'm tired of seeing John Bostic at middle linebacker. I truly am. But I was hoping we had 4 picks within the first 3 rounds. I was hoping to get 2 linebackers out of that, 2 starting linebackers out of that. We got 1. That's fine. We didn't pick up anything off of out of free agency except for David Mayo. And I'm hearing good things about him, but we don't know what he's going to be like. Is Kalike Hudson?
Miracle Whip.
That's true. What about Kalike Hudson? I liked what I saw from him when he was on the field at a very limited basis last year. Could we be running 4-2-5 sets? I'm hoping so. I'm hoping we're going to run that Buffalo nickel. I'm hoping we're going to have 5 defensive backs out there. If Landon Collins comes back healthy, they're going to play him more in the box. That will help. But we were putrid last year against the run. That was one of our biggest weaknesses last year, was against the run. And a lot of it had to do with the linebackers. John, I'll start with you. What do you think about our linebacker group? We also have Jared Norris, Jordan Kaczynski, Justin Phillips, and Joe Walker. A bunch of names that most people have never heard of before.
Jordan Kaczynski's parents used to be trapeze artists in the Ringling Brothers Circus. So I do expect him to maybe, I don't know, fly high above the stadium for a little while. The Flying Kaczynskis. I think nothing exists in a bubble. So even though we've had bad linebacker play from a lot of them, I think it's because they've not been very good as a unit, and that could start with one guy. If Jamin Davis is what we expect and what they've said and what we've heard hyped up by guys like Brian Baldinger, he could elevate the rest of the crew. If we've got a middle linebacker that can diagnose quickly, correctly, and be able to run with a running back or a tight end and be able to get in and plug a gap, I think that'll bring everybody else up. Disco, you asked which unit or what am I worried about? And I don't think the linebackers is it, because I do believe in Del Rio. I think that he can take the talent level that he's got, and they don't have to be gangbusters, right? We've got that defensive front. They can occupy a lot of people, make tackles on their own. If we've got fast.
He went out. But yeah, I'm going to get with you with you, Disco. What do you think about our linebacker crew now that John froze on us?
I'm concerned about the depth. And while I think that Jamin Davis is a great prospect and is probably going to be a star, I mean, he is going to be a rookie. And now the good news is that him being a rookie, but as a rookie, you've got a special group up front, then that's going to help him. But I'm concerned about linebacker depth, and I'm concerned about, as much as I like Jamin Davis, he's a rookie, and he's going to have some rookie growing pains.
Sure.
John, you want to finish your thought?
Yes, fuck Comcast and your stupid ass internet blinky shit.
Well, hold on. Let me stop you where he was running.
That was a good.
Right then and there, Keith. I was making my best point of the day.
I could tell, man. That face, it was like.
That was a great freeze, Keith. I actually thought you froze up.
I apologize for all of that. I believe in Del Rio, and I think he'll be able to take the talent that we have and make them better. They don't have to be great yet.
Sure. No, you're right. And we have both Del Rio and Ron. Now, the linebacker core did get better as the year went on last year, but it still wasn't good enough. What was your week? Your thought for Disco's question about what you're most concerned about?
Where I'm most concerned is injuries. Honestly, I don't see a weak position group across our entire roster when you look at our starting 22. I think we look pretty good practically everywhere. I mean, we might be a little weak in spots here and there, but mostly injuries terrify the shit out of me. We have watched teams that maybe not as good as this one, or at least on paper as good as this one. Look, some of Jay Gruden's teams weren't that bad, but just got destroyed so quickly with injuries that they just couldn't compete. And that I lay awake at night and I worry about things.
We got real lucky last year with the injury bug. I think our biggest injury was Matt Ioannidis, and with the great amount of depth that we have on in Collins, you're right. But with the great depth that we had on the defensive line, depth is great. And that's one thing that this team is building. It is getting depth in places of need, the offensive line, defensive line. But like Disco said, the depth at the linebacker is definitely worrisome.
John, to your point, I mean, especially worrisome with the last 5 games being, against NFC East.
Sure.
I mean, who are we going to trot out there? Who will be at full strength? So I'm worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, we lived through Josh Johnson being signed on Thanksgiving Day, and he's going to start the next week. I lay awake at night, I swear.
Keith, you got any thoughts with the linebackers?
Same as I said a couple weeks ago when we talked about this, and here to Disco touch base depth. Depth is always worrisome. For the past few years, depth was actually our biggest enemy, I feel, as a squad.
Yeah.
And I feel, the past, year, I'd say even two, but, especially last year, we improved on the offensive depth with the squad, and it looked better. And so now, you have Sweat and you have Chase who goes out. We don't have Kerrigan coming in. And I don't care what anyone says. Everyone bangs on Kerrigan, man. But those low percentage snaps that he had when he came in and played, he balled.
Quality.
He always has.
Yeah, they were quality. And so we kind of don't have that now. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Because as Superman as we want to put on Chase, these guys need their quick breaks.
Yeah.
As well. And, they can't be put in there. If that's the case, if they're going to run 95% of the time, they're going to be hurt by week 7, week 8.
Sure. Yeah.
Defensive line sees the most rotation of any crew on the field in any given game.
Yeah. And relying on 2 7th rounders.
That's really a smart take, John.
Well, thank you. I'm a smart guy. It comes from my tremendous
one
age.
every once in a while.
Well, let me ask you this, just based on this. Now, how much credit do we give the fact that there's a new training staff to last year avoiding injuries?
Oh, sure.
That's an interesting. That's a very interesting thought. You heard in years past, especially players that go to other teams, they would talk bad about our training staff.
It's the reason why we lost Trent Williams, in my opinion. I know a lot of people
very well
says
could,
money.
yeah.
I know a lot of people says money, man, but dude, Trent Williams was one of those guys, and I hate to bring up the past like this, but man, you see a lot of our players out on their own free time. They don't really rock our gear. Like, it's a business, and they treat it as a business. They wear their own shit, right? Trent Williams was that dude where it didn't matter where he was at. He could be, standing by his Lambo, and he's going to be in, back then, Redskins tee.
That's because
he just, to me, I felt like he was one of those guys that really gave us 100%. I think training staff was a huge part of why he's gone. And now that has been fixed, and it's not a coincidence. I mean, after he leaves, all these folks get fired, new team comes in, and all of a sudden now our injury percentage has improved. Come on.
Well, also, we didn't run the Candyland camps that Jay Gruden did. Good grief, man.
Well, sure.
Gruden these guys need to be conditioned to play football. You know, I mean, we see that the Jaguars have already paid a fine, right? You know what? That's going to help them. These guys are learning you got to learn how to hit and be hit and condition yourself to that.
In the era of Joe Gibbs, part 1, back in those days, you didn't hear about all these torn ACLs, Achilles, crazy. I mean, obviously concussions, because they didn't really study that stuff, but you didn't hear about these massive amounts of injuries. And I think that has a lot to do with how hard that they pushed players back. I mean, they would go full out scrimmages, during the week.
They were also much smaller. Yeah. I'll tell you this, the one thing everybody says about, the Hogs, they were the biggest and the best. Watch a replay of Super Bowl 17 when they introduce, and they'll say, Joe Jacoby, the behemoth at 290 pounds. It's like 290 now. That's a big tight end. You know what I'm saying? 290 now is not playing left tackle in the NFL. They're a lot bigger. They're a lot faster. And there's a lot more specialization. So you got guys whose job is to do nothing but check down that running back and smack him.
But before we go, I want to ask you guys, each of y'all, what is the most intriguing battle in training camp, since it's right around the corner, that you're looking forward to seeing? Keith, I'll start with you.
I got to go the easy route. I'm going to give you guys the harder routes. I want to see the quarterback position. I pretty much, obviously, I know who. I mean, I 100%.
You think there's going to be a competition?
Our man just said that wasn't. He just told us Fitzpatrick it was his job.
No, it's his job, right? It's his job. I hate all of you. I really like Disco. You're cool, but these two I won't fight.
Give him a Zima ice. Go ahead.
I know it's not a battle. It's not a real battle. I know Fitzpatrick's going to start, you morons. I'm just saying. I want to see Heineke in the process. Actually,
sure.
I don't want to see. I don't want to see Fitzpatrick. I already know what we got with him. We got a bearded guy. Whatever. I want to see Heineke. only because I want to see this man's size compared to how he was and what we saw. I want to see how well he does, in camp. I want to see if his passes are, on point. I want to see his chemistry with the players, because I'm not on a limb here. I'm not going to say that this guy is going to be our starter next season. But if we don't land a QB either in the draft or a free agency where it's going to be a long-term quarterback, so to speak, Heineke's going to be that bridge guy, because unless Fitzpatrick actually resigns again, which I don't know if I see that happening.
It depends on how he plays, I think. I think if he plays fairly well, he could come back for another year. But you very well could be right. If it doesn't work out, he could retire. There was rumors that he was on the verge of retirement this year. So who knows? I think I'm
not sold on Heinicke by any means whatsoever, because I don't feel like he's a needle in a haystack. I feel like if he was what people think he is right now, or what he displayed in the Tampa game, that would have been discovered a long time ago, and my man wouldn't have been doing what he was doing beforehand. He wouldn't have been called from Craigslist. So sorry, oh fuck it. Okay, anyways,
we got you.
Okay, that was funny. Called from Craigslist,
right? Like so, again, I'm not that guy, but just because of the BS that we've dealt with for so many years on the quarterback level, like there's this little Keith in the back here that's like, oh, maybe he could be good. Maybe he might be that guy that you're looking for. So, and that's just because of 25 plus years of desperation.
Sure.
And
you never know.
Hopefully we're going to win. And then when I go home, I watch Pornhub tonight and do well. And, so that's what's, going on back here. And so I don't know.
Other stuff going
that's
on.
What I'm going to pay attention to.
He's got Elmo in his head. That's what I'm hearing.
And I'll be honest, the other stuff, guys, like, and people call me out on it, and it's fine. I guess it's things that I'm going to have to learn, because I don't really know 100% what you're really looking for and looking at when it comes to position battles. Right. I'm just looking at a bunch of people.
A lot of people.
I've never paid attention to any of that before, because it's never
a lot of people are just like you, but they just try to act like they know what they're looking at.
Well, first of all, let me just make it very clear. I'm cool as shit. All right. It doesn't matter what I know.
The tie being half pulled open really shows that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the guy in the back of my head, it's like, yeah, we won. I'm going to go watch Pornhub.
Let me ask you this. Well, the fact of the matter is after the Super Bowl, the winning team or the losing team, the Pornhub, it spikes in that city. And that's a fact. Every damn year they release the numbers that they get after the Super Bowl. And well, they get so upset and they go masturbate. I just want to know if that voice in the back of your head ever says, hey, Keith, let's have a couple of wine coolers and burn down the building.
Disco, I apologize for this.
Oh man, this is great.
What's an intriguing battle for you for training camp, man?
I'm looking at that. Who's going to be that fifth or sixth wide receiver? I think that's going to be key. I think out of that group, you could be cutting a guy who's going to be a starter. But so I'm intrigued by that. I keep saying we need a punt returner.
100%.
But there's one other, I think we're kind of one position that's kind of flying under the radar is offensive line, because we've got, how many guards do we have?
15 of them.
Yeah. You go from 2 guards to now 15, and you got some really good guys. Wes Schweitzer came in last season,
played very well.
Now Cornelius Lucas could be third string now. You never know. So I think I'm intrigued with the offensive line. Actually.
Yeah, I think that Lucas and Cosme battle right there is going to be a good one. When Lucas was brought in, he was good. He was brought in to be a swing tackle, and I think at least eventually that's where Ron Rivera wants him to play at.
You want to know how much I don't pay attention to some things? Earlier, when I was asking the question to Zach, I called the man Sammy Reyes. Oops.
You're familiar with him. You met him once. You slapped him on the ass. You're tight.
We COVID tested together.
But
that's right. You're tight.
But yeah, it's, I think, it's a toss up for me to who's going to start out at right tackle. It could be Lucas, but we're going to see Sam Cosmi come in and win that position before the year's over with.
He's a second round pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got high hopes for him. I guess that means it's my turn. I'm gonna build on what Disco said. I also agree. I'm very interested in the wide receivers. We've got a packed room, and I think every single one of them could make this team. There are some that I think that should be more on the bubble. Steven Sims Jr.
But I think he's not. He's past the bubble for me. I'm tired of him.
We'll see. Yeah. But the point being is we've seen what he can do when he's not fucking up. And a lot of players fuck up in their second season. It's just things get to be more complex for them in the second season because more is thrown at them and they make mistakes. With the wide receivers and quarterbacks, they say the light comes on in the third year. Well, this will be his third year. Maybe we'll see a build off of that first year if he makes the team. But if he doesn't make the team, I don't expect him to go work for the post office. I expect him to be picked up, and I expect it to happen pretty quickly. So to me, that's the most intriguing battles is the entire wide receiver group, which we know who our starters are going to be. We know that several of these guys are going to make the team. It's those last few who's not going to make the team. That's, I think, going to be some cuts that a lot of people are going to complain about and bitch about and say, well, this guy's going to be a star somewhere, and they might be right. But can't keep them all. I also am interested in left guard. Excuse me for saying so. But
yeah.
It was curious to me. Zach said that Schweitzer was going to likely win the job outright. But look, we brought in Flowers, and as much as he was a joke at tackle, at left guard for us, that dude rolled.
Yeah, he sure did.
So as far as I'm concerned, if it was me, I'd pencil him right off the bat to at least compete for the starting job. But then again, I'm a graphic designer that doesn't know jack shit.
I think it's great the amount of depth at offensive line that we have just in years past. And we've said this time and time again on the podcast. The years where the first time our quarterback would ever meet the offensive lineman was in the huddle during the game. Because we were hiring people straight off the streets. And it's refreshing to see this team run right,
Remember that guy that we had against the Giants that year that still had his soda vendor uniform on? They got him right out of the freaking stadium, brought him in at halftime. I'm sorry, I busted up your point. Go ahead.
No, but since y'all took both you and Disco, took the wide receivers, I'm going to go with safety. And I think that it all depends on if Landon Collins is going to be fully healthy or not. Are they going to start him off on puppet? And if not, who's going to win that starting safety job? Is it going to be Cam Curls? It should be, in my eyes, as well as he played last year. Where is McCain going to play? Who is going to be McCain? Is going to be Everett? Is Everett going to make the team? What are they going to do with Troy Apke? They have him playing cornerback. I mean, that's got, even though we don't want to see Apke line up in the backfield. I think they're trying to make him make the team for his athletic ability because he does have use for the special teams. But I think that's an intriguing training camp battle if Landon Collins is healthy. They have to battle it out if he is. You can't just give Landon the job back, not with the way that Cam Curl had played.
Yeah,
what do you guys think about that?
But with the money he's making,
listen, money can't be everything.
No, but
they want to win. They want to win.
Of course they do. Win. Well, they ain't doing it with Apke.
No doubt. No doubt. You guys got anything else?
I've got nothing. Is that a Muhammad Ali picture in the back there, Disco?
Say it again.
Is that a Muhammad Ali picture
yep.
in the back? Oh, that's the famous one. Yeah, that's probably top 5 one of my favorite pictures. Oh man,
cool.
Oh, you're hardcore.
Hardcore, Ali. And I got another one there.
Yeah, no, the knockout.
One of these days,
top 5
we're gonna have to discuss Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson.
Ooh. Oh, that's not even a discussion.
Who are you picking?
Oh, I don't want to get into it.
I can see his room back there. It's going to be
I know who he's picking.
It was a dumb question.
I got to make I do got one more thing I got to.
Sure.
There's one thing I think that flies under the radar with this team from a football standpoint is, and this almost never happened before, how great did our free agent signings turn out this year? I mean,
Even the bargain bins.
Logan Thomas, JD McKissick is actually one of my JD McKissick is actually, no disrespect to Chris Thompson, but he was what Chris Thompson was supposed to be.
He sure was.
He stayed healthy last year. He stayed healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of JD McKissick. So
he's very versatile. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Barber because everyone else hates on him. And yet every time that man came in for a play, he did his job. I don't understand why people are mad at the man for doing his job. Like, would you want a Clinton Portis like first touch?
Because people look at the stats.
That's not his job.
They go look at the stats and say, see the 2.5 yards per carry. Well, guess what? Those 2.5 yards per carry, he was going in there and rushing for 1, 2, 3 yards to get the first down or get a touchdown. That's what he did. He did his job and he did it good.
Even in the series, they bring him in 1 or 2 series per half. And his job is to not go in and break the long one. If it happens, it happens. But his job is to go in and put his shoulder down and smash into that freaking linebacker again and again and again and again. Because by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, that dude is tired of getting hit.
You don't want McKissick or Gibson doing that. You know, you're just
he's the hammer.
More strain on them. I think Barber did his job, and the hate that I've seen for Barbara is kind of ridiculous. I'm kind of a little wary about him losing that weight, though.
Lamar Miller is there to push him.
That's true. We're going to see. That's going to be an interesting battle as well.
Well, look, I'll give you the old guy perspective from having watched Gibbs 1 from day 1 all the way through. John Riggins was a great running back, and we see a lot of great highlights, but there was a lot of series where they get a first down and then go 3 and out, or there's something like that where they just run 50 gut again and again and again and again because he just crushes these guys. Those hits hurt. They take their toll, and you keep ramming into those linebackers and those safeties that are crashing down. Soon they stop crashing down. They get slowed down. They don't feel like chasing that tight end. And that's, there's reasons why things happen. And a lot of fans think, well, everything's like Madden and everything has to make a touchdown. This game should be 125-50. Bullshit. I froze again, didn't I?
Right. No. You're just
Jesse fools me. His face just sits there, and I think, "Fuck, I'm frozen."
Well, I mean, you both are ugly. I mean, Disco and I are the only ones that are like saving this podcast right now.
We are going.
He's gonna offer you a wine cooler now, Disco.
In the show. On that note, we'd like to give a special thanks to Zach Selby from the Washington football team for joining us. And Disco, can you tell our listeners where to find you on Twitter?
Yeah, they can find me at Disco Q5, DISCOQUE5.
Awesome, man. We really appreciate you coming on and chopping it up with us.
Hey, man, you guys are awesome.
That's awesome.
And
I'd like to see you back. I had a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd also like to notate for all to hear that all that smack talk that I talked with Disco probably 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, like, no, the man would literally beat me up. Like, legitimately beat me up. So I take all that smack talk back because I would not say anything to that man on the streets.
No, man. I'm 5'10", man, 190. So no, you got me.
No, you've always been a good dude. I've always felt like you figured me out, and it's cool. So yeah, we would definitely love to have you back, and as long as you'd like to come on.
Just ask me, man. I love you. You guys are great.
Awesome.
He's definitely going to offer you a Bartles and James passion fruit coolie now, right?
Listen, old man, I hope Tim Lawler in the YouTube comments gets a hold of you, okay?
Oh,
give me some Mad Dog and I'll keep coming back.
Oh, we're talking
the Mad Dog 2020.
Ouch.
Damn.
Real quick too, before everyone goes, I just wanted to also make the announcement that Paul Nicholson has Paul Nichols, my apologies, Paul Nichols has sent me the gloves. They're going to arrive tomorrow. However, due to the COVID the COVID protocols at camp, it's not a good idea that we're going to be able to actually have Paul hand deliver them, unfortunately. I wanted to take a step back in that process and really let Paul have the shine on that. And unfortunately, it can't be done. So we're going to go with the original plan. I have talked to Jason. I have talked to Zach. They're aware of what's going on. So as soon as the gloves come in, I'm heading to the post office to send right back out.
Well, we should get a video of
Get a
it so we
couple
can
of
do a
pictures.
reveal so we can show the listeners.
Yeah, that's
That's
what
a
I was
good
gonna-
idea.
That's
Do
what
it
I
right
was.
here on the podcast.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
ask you guys. Is maybe do it next Tuesday.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do
I'm good
that.
with that. That
Let's
would be
do
very
that.
cool.
Perfect.
That would be very cool. And as always, I want to remind everybody, hogfarmerscharity.org. Go over there
Absolutely.
and give those people some money. They deserve it, and they do
Absolutely.
good things with it.
Cool.
You can
Also-
check it. Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
Jesse.
Oh,
Huge
you're
shout
good.
out. Huge shout out to Chris Bryant and Jeff
Yes.
Reinhart, man.
Tough
Just-
week for them.
Tough week
Yeah.
for them. Behind the scenes with these guys, it's really rough. So
We're
any
thinking
love
about
that-
you guys. We're definitely thinking about y'all.
Much love to both of you, and anyone that's listening. Shoot those guys some love and just kind of help uplift them. If you think it doesn't help, it does.
Tell you what, you want to uplift them, donate to their cause.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can catch John at Bang Radio Hour. You can catch Keith at KG Skins 26 and me at Jesse's 24. Go ahead and download the podcast on any platform, Google, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or you can catch us over at YouTube. Hit the subscribe and that bell, leave a comment, and we'll catch y'all next week. Hail to the team.
Hell.
All right, see you,
All right.
talentless and old man, weakest link.
You guys, appreciate you guys.